Hey everyone, and welcome to the next episode of Cyber Caffeine Chats, where we're taking a complex topic and breaking it down into smaller, easy to understand chunks. Well, out there in the beautiful Sydney Harbour, the water is always moving and changing. One day it might be calm, and the next we've got stormy seas. It's exactly the same in the cybersecurity landscape. Whether it's trends, threats we're exposed to, or defences that we put in place, things are always moving and we need to keep up to date. And what I want to achieve out of this series is to show you some of the proactive things that you can put in place with your cyber strategy to make sure that you're ready for that storm, even when it does arrive at your doorstep. So let's dive in and meet today's special guest. Hello, Mr. Dominic Biddlecombe.
Hello, Mr. Phil Atkinson. How are you today?
Fantastic, thank you, and thanks for coming on this episode of Cyber Caffeine Chats.
An absolute honour to be here, Phil. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, sir, my pleasure. And what are you drinking today?
A Colombian single origin today for me, Phil. How about yourself?
I'm having a batch coffee, which is effectively like a posh filter coffee, effectively.
Well, very nice. And I think you and I are known for our love of coffee.
Indeed.
And every day we try to find something new and unique in North Sydney. I think we've achieved that again today.
We've met our goal.
There we go. Tick that off.
So, before we get started, could you introduce yourself, Dom? And
sure.
Maybe a fun fact about yourself.
Sure. So, I run the Trend Micro technical team for ANZ North. Fun fact, I'm South African by origin.
I
would never have guessed that. Another fun fact is I'm a big fan of music, especially heavy metal. And the reason I mention that is because you and I have a heavy metal concert that we are very much looking forward to this weekend.
Looking forward to it.
Can't wait to rock on.
So business, as a reminder, we're talking about a concept called CSMA, or Cybersecurity Mesh Architecture, during this video series. And last month we were looking at some of the concepts, some of the trends in the industry that have been changing. Today we're going to be talking about all the different cybersecurity tools that we've got in place. So there's a lot of different acronyms, it's a bit of a buzzword bingo with all the different options that we've got. And Dom, you've been in the industry for a while, right? What are some of your thoughts on this matter?
Yeah, look, I think especially the types of customers that you and I and our team deal with, the more enterprise customers, what we're seeing is on average probably 10 to 15 vendors supplying different types of tooling, different types of kits, and with that comes at least 60 different tools, right? So I think that then creates this environment where we're struggling to keep up with the amount of tools and information that we are trying to
tools. There's a lot of consoles, a lot of things to train up on for the staff.
Yeah.
And there's a reason we've got all these tools. Like we've got
absolutely right.
Ever increasing, complex cyber landscape, and we need all these things to combat the attackers. And it'd be great if we had an unlimited supply of security people and SOC teams and things like that. But it's just not the case, right?
No, I think we've actually got less people doing more. And so, if you think about smaller teams, more tools, what that does is, first of all, adds a lot of headache for your cybersecurity practitioners, but it also introduces a real possibility of missing things like detections and events and incidents that you should be keeping abreast of.
And it's having, I guess, like negative effects like burnout.
Yeah. People
are, stressed. It's leading to, impact on retention, things like that.
Absolutely.
It's a bit of a vicious circle.
Absolutely right.
And I think a lot of one option is looking at consolidation, right? So saying, can I bring down this number of vendors? But realistically, you've got 60 tools. You're never going to get that to one effectively. And I think what we've seen recently is you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. There's going to be other vendors in that ecosystem, right?
Yeah, I think especially post some high-profile breaches we've seen where perhaps vendor consolidation was once upon a time a very popular way to go. I think we're seeing quite the opposite now, where people want to rather hedge their bets, have multiple tools, so you don't have a single point of failure. But again, that introduces this complexity we're speaking about.
Yeah. So Trends, I guess, recognise all this stuff going on a few years ago. We've been building out our platform called Vision One, right?
Yeah. Yes, Vision One is our cybersecurity risk platform. And one of the benefits of the platform is this ability to integrate with multiple disparate security tools and then create what is an easy to understand and view environment. So what you're doing is you're bringing in events from different tools, having a centralized data plane and a centralized management plane. So even though we know no one's getting down to one tool, we can keep these investments in these third-party vendors and tools, but at least still provide some concise, accurate view of all of the different events across your different disparate environments.
Okay, well, sounds great. Let's take a look at what that looks like a little more.
Okay, so let's revisit this rather complicated looking diagram. And today we're going to be covering this next layer of components here, which is effectively all the cybersecurity tools that you might have within your environment. And we're going to be looking at some of the differences between if you had a different vendor for each and every one of these, or some of the benefits if you start consolidating things together. So first off, let's take a look at a typically siloed traditional approach when it comes to operationally managing your cybersecurity. We're going to have different attack surfaces, different areas where we might have tools deployed. So again, across the likes of endpoint, email, network, cloud. And if you're a cybersecurity administrator, your first challenge with this is you can have lots of different consoles, lots of different applications to log on to, which is going to make your life a little bit complicated. You're going to have to learn lots of different tools as well. Secondly, you're going to have to integrate all these things together to get the best result. And finally, if you've got something like a SIEM platform in place, you're going to be sending all the different logs from these siloed products into that. It's complicated, it's hard work, it's a lot of manual effort to correlate all that stuff. And again, it's yet another console to log on to. So the net effect is security administrators are going to be unhappy with this approach. It's not really scalable. How can we take a better approach using more of a platform like with Trend Micro? So first of all, we can combine all these different things together in what we call Vision 1. And this is going to give a single pane of glass, a single console for your administrators to log on to manage all the cybersecurity needs. All these things are going to talk together, going to integrate and work nicely together to take the manual effort out of things. And of course, again, you're not going to want to put all your eggs into one basket. You're always going to have other tools in your ecosystem. Perhaps your IDP, maybe you've got Okta or Entra or something like that. This is something that we can integrate with. Again, everybody's got some firewalls one way or another, whether it's in your cloud, in your data center, and your branches. Another key device that we need to integrate with, as well as things like digital rights management for document labeling, something's restricted, sensitive, things like that. A few key examples there. So again, if we can simplify this, if we can automate these integrations, make the life of your administrators a little bit easier, it's going to lead to a happier workforce. So let's take a look at how we can configure some of these use cases in Vision 1. Right, so let's take a look at some of the examples of services that we can start to consolidate into the Trend Vision 1 platform across those different attack surfaces. First of all, when it comes to endpoint, if we're talking about your laptops, your workstations, workloads, or your servers, we've got full protection coverage there, as well as endpoint detection and response. Also, we mentioned email, so whether it's putting in things like traditional email gateways to stop phishing attacks, spam, business email compromise, or even CASB style services where we can use APIs to interact with those email and collaboration applications. We've got full coverage on that side. When it comes to your network, it may be putting in sensors to do network detection and response, or maybe even intrusion prevention systems to block those network-based attacks. And on the cloud side, we've got a few options there. We can look at cloud posture, identifying misconfigurations, best practice and compliance, but also we can start to put protection in place, things like runtime protection on container infrastructure and file security and things like that. So lots of wide and deep capabilities in that area, but as we said again, quite often you're going to have different security tools within your ecosystem. And a key part of the platform is around this third-party integration. So you can see here we've got a wide variety of tools across various different categories that we can integrate with. And again, some of this might be pulling in telemetry information to assess your risk and things like that. It also might be going off and interacting with some of these tools so that we can speed up response and automations essentially. So to look at a few key examples of this on the identity side, if we take a look down here at some of the user accounts, and from an admin perspective, we might want to add like a local account, but also we can add something from SAML. So we've integrated to something like an Entra, where you're creating that as a central source of identity. We could do that there. And also from a multi-factor perspective, if you're doing something a little bit more privileged within the platform, we can enforce a step up MFA authentication as you're doing that particular task. So that's quite useful there. Secondly, we spoke about firewall integration, and we've got a concept within the platform called suspicious object management. So this is where we can collate a list of various different indicators of compromise. It may be things like IP addresses, file hashes, domains, all those sorts of things. And when we identify something from a threat feed or otherwise, we can quickly go and distribute that to your firewalls and perimeter defenses to avoid having to go through manual steps and processes, essentially making that remediation and response a lot quicker for you. And finally, we spoke about things like digital rights management tools. So to take an example here, based on zero trust, if we're controlling access for our users out to private applications, internet applications, from a data loss prevention point of view, we can start to build some profiles here. You know, not only things for like usual types of data like credit card numbers, but also we can integrate with Entra here when it comes to sensitivity levels. So let's say, you know, stop your documents marked as restricted from being uploaded to that insecure website. So that's quite useful within the tool as well. So just a few examples of how we can not only start consolidating some of these common tools within a single platform, but also playing nicely within the overall ecosystem to make the lives of your admins a lot easier. All right, well, hopefully that was useful, everybody. Thanks for joining us today, and thank you, Don, for coming on today's episode.
Thank you for having me, Phil. It was an absolute pleasure.
Anytime. And time for another coffee, maybe?
It's always time for another coffee, Phil. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.